Imagine waking up every morning with a single mission: to take action, no matter how you feel, no matter the excuses. Would you like to have the ability to overcome procrastination and move toward your goals every single day? Most of us constantly struggle with a lack of motivation. It's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect moment or feeling like we need to be fully motivated to start. But what if I told you that the key to achieving everything you set out to do isn't waiting to feel inspired, but taking action simply because you know it's what you should do? Great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca understood that life isn't about waiting for the ideal circumstances or depending on momentary motivation. They taught that true power lies in daily discipline, in the constant commitment to act, regardless of the obstacles that arise. The secret isn't in grand heroic actions, but in the small decisions we make every day. Today, I want to share with you 15 Stoic lessons that will change the way you view daily action. These teachings will help you commit to your progress, avoid procrastination, and overcome the mental barriers that hold us back. But for these lessons to work in your life, you must commit to them. It's not enough to just listen to them. You need to act. And I challenge you to do just that. Stay with me until the end of the video. And by the end, you'll be ready to take the first step toward a life of constant action. If you're ready to start right now, subscribe and comment with the word commitment. Let's make every day count. The power of daily habit. Consistent actions define our destiny, not the grand, sporadic gestures. If you've ever tried to change something in your life, you know that the key to success lies in what you do every day. The Stoics understood this very well. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly spoke about the importance of daily discipline, not waiting for the perfect moment, but taking action now, every day. Get up every morning and do what you must do without excuses. He would remind himself of the importance of constant action, even when the circumstances aren't ideal. Most people believe that great results come from intense but temporary efforts. In reality, the true key to productivity and progress lies in creating habits that move us toward our goals, one small step at a time. Habits are the foundation upon which we build a successful life, but this requires a firm commitment. Daily action doesn't have to be monumental. You don't need to reach the top in one day. In fact, daily progress may seem minimal, but over time those small steps add up, and what once seemed impossible becomes an achievable reality. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, summed it up perfectly when he said, "It's not that we have little time, but that we waste a lot." The time we waste each day in procrastination or in insignificant actions could have brought us closer to our goals. The key is to make the most of every day. Here's the key lesson. Commit to your daily habit. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, the simple act of taking action every day creates a feedback loop of progress. With each day you take action, the next day becomes easier, and progress is inevitable. This applies to any area of your life: health, work, study, relationships. It's not about doing more, but doing what's necessary every day with discipline. It's time to stop waiting for the urge to do it. If you want to achieve something important, start today with one small step. Don't stop. The power of daily habit is unstoppable. Don't wait for motivation, create discipline. Motivation is volatile. Some days you feel full of energy, other days you simply don't want to do anything. Most people think that success depends on being motivated. But the Stoics understood that motivation isn't what leads us to action. Discipline is. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, spoke about the difference between fleeting motivation and constant discipline. He said that the wise man doesn't wait to feel like acting, but acts because he knows it's the right thing to do, regardless of how he feels. In everyday life, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we need to be excited or inspired to take the next step. However, this approach leaves us at the mercy of our emotions and therefore at the mercy of life's natural ups and downs. When we base our productivity and actions on motivation, we risk paralyzing ourselves when that spark of inspiration fades. The solution is in discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of emotions. Discipline doesn't come overnight. It's cultivated through daily repetition. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, was a firm believer in the importance of discipline. In his Meditations, he reminds us that we must keep our minds and actions focused on what really matters, without being distracted by fleeting emotions. When motivation abandons you, discipline is what keeps you going. The Stoics knew that true greatness doesn't come from temporary inspiration, but from constant effort. When you make the decision to commit to your goals without depending on how you feel, you are developing unbreakable discipline. This type of discipline allows you to keep moving forward even when circumstances aren't ideal. Over time, it becomes a habit, and habits are more powerful than motivational peaks. The lesson we should learn from the Stoics is clear. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline is what truly moves us toward our goals. If you wait to be motivated, you'll probably do nothing. But if you decide to act regardless of your emotional state, you will be taking a firm step towards success. Don't put your life on hold until you feel inspired. Act now, and discipline will take care of the rest. 3. Do what you can, even if you don't feel ready. It's easy to fall into the trap of perfectionism. Most people think they must be fully prepared or feel ready before taking any action. This leads to procrastination, postponing what we know we should do, waiting for the perfect moment, which in many cases never comes. The Stoics, however, had a completely different perspective. Epictetus, one of the great masters of this philosophy, stated that there is no need to wait until you are perfectly prepared to start. What matters is to begin now, with what you have and what you are capable of doing at this moment. This mindset can radically change the way you approach your projects, goals, and challenges. Instead of waiting to have all the answers or resources, the Stoics encourage us to take action with what we have on hand, trusting that the process will teach us what we need to know as we move forward. In fact, it is in action where the answers are found, not in the endless contemplation of what could be. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, emphasizes the importance of accepting our current situation. It's not about being perfectly prepared. It's about doing best with what we have in the present. Instead of waiting until everything is figured out, the Stoics teach us to act based on what we know today, to take that first step, no matter how small. Perfection is just an illusion that prevents us from moving forward. The longer you wait, the easier it is to become stuck in inaction. It's true that the lack of preparation can bring fear or anxiety, but that's a sign that you're growing. Life will not always be comfortable, and action will never be perfect. If you wait to have all the pieces of the puzzle before you begin, you'll likely wait forever. What leads to constant improvement is continuous action, even if you don't feel completely ready. Seneca, for his part, reminds us that life is short, and every moment we lose waiting to be ready is a moment we can never get back. Time does not wait, and neither should we. If you let the fear of not being prepared paralyze you, you will never reach where you want to be. The Stoic lesson is clear. Don't wait until you feel completely ready to take action. Act with what you have now, and trust that the process will teach you what you need. Every step you take brings you closer to your goals, and there is no better time to start than right now. Perfect preparation doesn't exist. What exists is constant action. Do it, even if you don't feel ready, because only then will you discover what you're capable of. 4. Every action has a purpose. Often, people fall into the trap of doing things without a clear purpose. We get caught up in the daily routine and perform tasks without reflecting on their meaning or contribution to our long-term goals. The Stoics, however, urge us to act with intention. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, insisted that every action we take must align with our principles and goals, as life is too short to do things that don't bring us closer to what truly matters. If we live disorganized and without reflection, we risk finishing our day without feeling like we've accomplished something meaningful. The key is to find the purpose behind every action, no matter how small. When every task has a purpose, it becomes an opportunity to move forward, not just an obligation or a meaningless chore. It's important to remember that it's not about doing many things, but about doing what truly matters, with focus and discipline. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, reminds us that time is our most valuable resource. If we waste our hours doing insignificant things, we are squandering what we can never get back. He emphasized that we must consciously choose our actions and ensure that each one brings us closer to our goals, to our deepest aspirations. Small actions, when conscious, accumulate and lead us where we want to go. The purpose behind each action not only improves our productivity, but also gives us direction. When we know why we are doing something, we don't need to depend on motivation to do it. Reason drives us forward. As Epictetus says, "What we do because it's what we must do, not because it's easy or because we feel motivated." This idea highlights the importance of discipline and clarity of purpose in daily action. The lesson we must learn here is that it's not enough to act impulsively or without direction. It's necessary to give a purpose to everything we do, even the smallest tasks. Every action has the potential to bring us closer to our vision, as long as we do it with clarity and purpose. If you focus on what truly matters, every action will have a deep meaning and contribute to long-term success. The key is to ask yourself, what am I achieving with this action? Is it bringing me closer to my goal? If the answer is yes, then continue. If not, maybe it's time to reconsider what you're doing. Action with purpose is what creates real progress. At the end of the day, it's not about how many things we did, but how many things we did that brought us closer to the future we want to build. 5. Action against fear. Fear is one of the most powerful human emotions, and often it paralyzes us. It stops us before we can take action, tells us we are not good enough, that failure is just around the corner, or that the consequences of our effort will be too great. However, the Stoics taught us not to let fear determine our actions. Epictetus, in his teachings, stated that most of our suffering comes from concerns about what could happen, not from what actually occurs. The key is to act despite the fear, not wait for it to disappear. Fear is a natural reaction to the unknown, to uncertainty. We all experience it, no matter how brave we are or how confident we feel at any given moment. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who fall behind is not the lack of fear, but how they face it. While most wait for fear to disappear before acting, the Stoics teach us that the best way to overcome it is by confronting it directly with action. Instead of waiting for security or guarantees, we take the first step and learn along the way. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflects this idea when he writes about the importance of not letting emotions dominate us. If you let fear control you, you will be making decisions based on uncertainty, which is not only a form of procrastination, but also a barrier that stops you from progressing. Instead of letting fear control your actions, you should use it as a signal that you are about to do something significant, something that will take you to a new place, even if that place seems terrifying. Fear can show up at any moment, before a big change, when facing a challenge, or even when starting a new project. What's important is to remember that you are not alone in this. The great Stoics also faced fear, doubt, and adversity. The difference is that they didn't let those fears stop them. Fear is a sign that you are about to step out of your comfort zone, and it's precisely that step out of the comfort zone that allows you to grow. Remember the Stoic lesson: fear is not a reason to stop, it's an invitation to act. Don't wait to feel free from fear to start. Act despite it. Action is the most effective antidote to the paralysis that fear causes. Face fear with small steps, and over time, you will see how it loses its power. The road to greatness is not fear-free, but it is filled with action. In the end, the actions you take despite fear will be the ones that make a difference in your life. 6. The importance of resilience. Life is full of difficulties, failures, and moments when everything seems to go against us. Most people, when faced with adversity, stop, give up, or look for an easy way out. However, the Stoics taught us that the key to success is not avoiding obstacles, but how we react to them. Epictetus said that it is not the things that affect us, but how we interpret them. Resilience, the ability to recover and move forward despite adversity, is one of the fundamental pillars of Stoic philosophy. The concept of resilience is simple. It doesn't matter how many times you fall, what matters is how many times you get back up. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, emphasized that life is full of difficulties, and that every time we face an obstacle, we have an opportunity to strengthen our character. Resilience does not mean ignoring pain or difficulties, but understanding that they are a natural part of life, and ultimately, lessons that help us grow. When facing adversity, instead of complaining or feeling defeated, Stoics encourage you to see the challenge as an opportunity to practice mental fortitude. Instead of making excuses or blaming external factors, take responsibility for your situation and look for what you can learn from it. Every challenge carries a valuable lesson, and the faster you learn from those challenges, the stronger and more capable you will be in facing the next ones. Seneca, another great Stoic, reminded us that difficulties are not only inevitable but necessary for our evolution. In his letters to Lucilius, he spoke about how adversity is an opportunity to practice virtue, to strengthen our patience, determination, and wisdom. Life is not just a series of happy and easy moments, but a set of experiences that require us to adapt and continuously improve. Resilience also means having the ability to see beyond immediate suffering. When we go through tough times, it's easy to fall into the victim mentality, to believe that the pain has no end. However, Stoic resilience teaches us to accept pain as part of the process without allowing it to consume us. By doing so, we better prepare ourselves for whatever comes next, and ultimately, we overcome challenges more quickly. The lesson is clear. It's not about avoiding difficulties, but how we face them. Resilience is not a trait we are born with, but a skill we cultivate through constant practice. The more we face challenges with a Stoic mindset, the stronger we become. Adversity is an opportunity to grow and strengthen. So, the next time you face a difficulty, instead of running from it, confront it with the certainty that it will make you wiser, stronger, and better prepared for the future. 7. The key is self-control. We live in a world full of temptations, distractions, and momentary pleasures that can divert our attention from what really matters. We are surrounded by the impulse to act according to our emotions, whether it's the desire to procrastinate, overeat, or simply flee from discomfort. However, the Stoics understood that true freedom and success come from self-control, the ability to master our impulses and act with moderation. Seneca, in his writings, emphasizes that true strength is not found in yielding to immediate desires, but in being able to consciously choose what is best for us in the long term. Self-control is not about repressing our emotions or desires, but about learning to act in accordance with what we know is right and beneficial for our well-being and long-term goals. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected on how the wise man is one who can govern himself, not letting himself be swept away by the whims of the moment. The ability to make thoughtful decisions rather than acting impulsively is what allows us to stay focused on what truly matters. When we talk about self-control, we refer to the ability to resist immediate temptations and delay instant gratification in favor of long-term goals. In practice, this means being able to say no to fleeting pleasures that divert us from our path, whether it's procrastination, overeating, or distractions that don't help us grow. True freedom is not in yielding to what we desire in the moment, but in the ability to make conscious decisions that align our actions with our values and objectives. The Stoics, with their focus on self-discipline, teach us that life is full of choices. At every moment, we have the opportunity to decide how we react to circumstances and what we prioritize in our lives. It's not about being perfect or living a life without desires, but about having control over those desires and directing our energy toward what truly matters. Instead of being carried away by the emotions of the moment, we can choose to act in accordance with our reason and our values. The Stoic lesson regarding self-control is clear. It's not about eliminating our desires, but about learning to manage them. Self-control allows us to make wiser decisions, and in doing so, brings us closer to our goals and a more balanced life. Every time we exercise self-control, we strengthen our will and increase our ability to stay focused on what truly matters. If you want to take action consistently and effectively, self-control is an indispensable tool to achieve it. 8. Accept what you cannot control. One of the most fundamental principles of Stoicism is accepting that there are things beyond our control. We often get frustrated with external situations, things we cannot change, and this generates stress, anxiety, and even anger. We worry about the actions of others, the circumstances of life, and events beyond our reach. However, the Stoics teach that the key to living a tranquil and effective life is to focus only on what we can control, our own actions, thoughts, and reactions. Epictetus, one of the most influential philosophers in Stoic philosophy, said that we must distinguish between what is under our control and what is not. Some things depend on us, others do not, he said. This principle is liberating because it allows us to get rid of the worry about what we cannot change and focus on what is within our sphere of influence. If we learn to accept what we cannot control, we can live with greater serenity and make more rational decisions. Accepting what we cannot control does not mean surrendering or being passive in the face of adversity. On the contrary, it means recognizing that there are external factors we cannot modify, such as the behavior of others, the weather, or the economy. Instead of fighting against these factors, the Stoics teach us to adapt to them and use our energy more productively. We cannot control what others think or do, but we can control how we respond to their actions. By letting go of the need to control everything around us, we free our minds and emotions to focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, also speaks about the importance of accepting what we cannot change. Throughout his life, he faced tremendous challenges as an emperor, from wars to plagues, but he always remained steadfast in his Stoic vision of accepting challenges with calmness and determination. He understood that life is uncertain and that control over circumstances is limited. Therefore, his approach was always to take action over what was in his hands and accept with equanimity what was not. The lesson is clear. Instead of wearing ourselves out over what we cannot change, we should focus on what we can do. Accepting the uncontrollable is a way to free our emotional energy to be more effective in the areas of our life that are under our control. This doesn't mean being indifferent or resigned, but having the clarity that, in the end, the only thing we truly possess is our response to external events. If we manage to accept what we cannot change, we will experience less suffering and more inner peace. 9. Live according to nature. One of the deepest teachings of Stoicism is the importance of living according to nature. This principle refers not only to the external nature, like the natural world around us, but also to our nature as human beings. The Stoics believed that living in harmony with nature, that is, understanding and aligning ourselves with the natural laws of life, was fundamental to achieving inner peace and well-being. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reflected on the fact that each of us is part of a whole, a larger universal system. By understanding that we are part of nature and that our actions must align with natural principles, we can live in a more balanced and purposeful way. Human nature has its own rhythms, values, and principles, and it is essential to respect them to achieve inner peace. When we act in a way contrary to our nature, we drift away from our purpose and feel dissatisfied. Living according to nature means acting in conformity with reason, virtue, and common sense. It is not about fighting against what we are, but accepting it and living coherently with our capabilities and limitations. If we try to force something that is not in our nature, whether it's a task, a relationship, or an expectation, we will inevitably experience frustration. The Stoics teach us that true happiness does not come from the struggle, but from accepting who we are and what we can do within the limits of our own nature. Furthermore, living according to nature also involves accepting the transience of life. Nature is constantly changing, and so are we. Everything that is born is destined to die, and everything that has a beginning has an end. The Stoics encourage us to accept these life cycles with serenity, without clinging to the past or fearing the future. Instead of resisting the natural flow of things, we should learn to flow with it, making the most of each moment and living fully. The principle of living according to nature helps us reduce anxiety, comparison, and the constant desire to be something we are not. Instead of desiring a life that is not ours, we can focus on what is within our reach and what aligns with our true nature, resulting in a life of greater fulfillment and authenticity. 10. The importance of detachment. One of the central principles of Stoicism is detachment, a practice that involves freeing ourselves from the need to cling to things, people, or outcomes. We live in a society that constantly urges us to hold on to material possessions, external expectations, and personal achievements as sources of happiness. However, Stoics like Seneca and Epictetus teach us that true freedom and inner peace come from the ability to let go, from not clinging to what is not permanent, and from not allowing our emotions to be tied to what we cannot control. Detachment does not mean renouncing things or stopping ourselves from enjoying life's experiences. It is about learning not to depend emotionally on them. In the modern world, we are surrounded by possessions, relationships, and expectations that seem to define our identity and our happiness. The problem arises when we cling to these aspects as if they were the ultimate source of our well-being. When something external is threatened, whether a relationship, a job, or a possession, our sense of security and happiness is altered. The Stoics urge us to understand that nothing in the world is eternal. Everything we have, even the closest people, is subject to change and loss. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations that what we consider ours is in reality only temporary. When we cling too much to what is fleeting, we allow the fear of loss to control us, preventing us from living in peace. Detachment means recognizing that happiness does not depend on what we have, but on how we respond to what we have. If you cling to something with the expectation that it will bring you permanent happiness, you will inevitably suffer when that thing is lost or changes. However, if you practice detachment, you will be able to enjoy experiences and relationships while they last, without depending entirely on them for your well-being. Seneca expressed this very clearly when he said, "Wealth is not the possession of things, but the ability to enjoy things without the need to possess them." Detachment allows you to enjoy what you have without being tied to it, without your happiness depending on what you may lose in the future. This also applies to the results of our actions. While it is important to work with dedication and effort, the Stoics teach us that results are largely beyond our control. By detaching from the outcome, we free ourselves from the suffering that arises from frustration when things don't turn out as expected. Practicing detachment allows you to live with less anxiety and more serenity. Instead of being trapped in the constant need for more or trying to control everything that happens in your life, you can focus on what really matters: your inner peace, your values, and your actions. True freedom is not in what we possess, but in our ability to free ourselves from the need to possess. 11. The practice of gratitude. In a world that always pushes us to desire more, to compare ourselves with others, and to constantly seek perfection, the Stoics teach us the importance of gratitude. Living with gratitude not only improves our emotional well-being, but also serves as a powerful tool to focus our minds on what we have rather than what we lack. Seneca, in his writings, speaks about the importance of recognizing what we have already received from life and maintaining a grateful attitude, even during difficult times. Stoic gratitude centers on accepting what we have in the present moment, without lamenting what we don't have or what we've lost. Instead of focusing on scarcity, the Stoics encourage us to see what we've achieved, to value the small daily blessings, and to remember that, although life is not perfect, there is always something to be grateful for. This practice not only helps us find peace, but also allows us to shift our perspective towards a more positive and balanced outlook. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected on how each day was an opportunity to be grateful for life, even when he faced challenges as emperor. He understood that gratitude does not depend on external circumstances, but on our willingness to recognize the good in our lives, no matter how small. Through this approach, we can cultivate a mindset that helps us overcome difficulties and find satisfaction in what we already have. Gratitude is not just a passive feeling, but a conscious action. It involves making a daily practice of counting our blessings, reflecting on the things we take for granted, and recognizing the value of every moment. This daily practice has the power to transform our outlook on life. When we feel frustrated or discouraged, remembering what we've already received can be a powerful reminder of what truly matters. Moreover, the Stoics also encourage us to practice gratitude not only for what is easy to be thankful for, but also for difficulties. When we face obstacles, we can see them as opportunities to learn and grow. Gratitude for challenges allows us to approach them with greater serenity and wisdom, rather than being dominated by frustration or resentment. Epictetus, for example, taught that everything that happens is an opportunity to practice virtue, and therefore a reason to be thankful. The practice of gratitude is essential to maintaining a positive and focused mindset. By focusing on what we already have, we stop searching externally for what we lack, and instead cultivate internal satisfaction. Gratitude connects us with the present, allows us to enjoy what truly matters, and helps us maintain a balanced attitude towards life. 12. The importance of simplicity. We live in an era where options are infinite, distractions are constant, and expectations seem unattainable. Amidst all this complexity, the Stoics teach us the importance of simplicity. Living simply does not mean renouncing the pleasures of life, but rather reducing unnecessary complications, focusing on the essentials, and eliminating the superfluous. According to the Stoics, true happiness and peace come from living simply, aligned with what truly matters. Seneca was a strong advocate for simple living. In his letters to Lucilius, he spoke about how the constant pursuit of luxuries and pleasures only fuels dissatisfaction and anxiety. The desire to have more, to be more, to achieve more can lead us down an endless path that never provides the lasting satisfaction we seek. The Stoics believe that happiness is not found in the accumulation of material things, but in the ability to live with less, to be self-sufficient, and to find contentment in what we truly need to live well. Living in accordance with simplicity means reducing our expectations of what we should have, freeing ourselves from the societal pressure to always seek more, and valuing what we have in the present moment. By practicing simplicity, we can focus on what really matters: our relationships, our passions, and our personal goals. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, also reflected on the importance of not being caught up by the superficial glitter of material possessions and of remembering that true wealth is living with integrity and virtue. Simplicity is not just an external matter, but also an internal one. It's about reducing mental noise, focusing on the essentials, and learning to say no to what distracts us from our goals. The excess of options and the overload of information divert us from what we truly want in life. By simplifying our decisions, our routines, and our priorities, we can take control of our lives and direct our energy toward what truly matters. Furthermore, living simply can help us find peace and serenity. Instead of struggling against the chaos of the external world, the Stoics teach us to reduce our own contribution to that chaos, focusing only on what we can control. Simple living allows us to be more mindful of our actions and more grateful for what we have. Instead of chasing happiness in the external world, we find contentment within ourselves. The lesson is clear. Living simply does not mean living without desire or ambition, but eliminating the unnecessary to focus on the essentials. When we practice simplicity, we discover that peace and happiness are not found in having more, but in wanting less. By adopting this philosophy, we can live in a more balanced, focused, and happy way. 13. The power of resilience. Life is not always easy. We face challenges, difficulties, and situations beyond our control that test our strength. Stoicism teaches us that resilience, the ability to overcome adversity with serenity and determination, is one of the most important qualities we must cultivate. For the Stoics, the true test of character is not how we act when things go well, but how we respond when circumstances are tough. Epictetus, in his discourses, emphasized that we cannot avoid life's difficulties, but we can choose how to respond to them. He taught us that adversity is not something that should break us, but an opportunity to test our inner strength. Instead of lamenting the obstacles, the Stoics urge us to see them as opportunities to practice virtue, to strengthen our resilience, and to grow as individuals. Resilience, therefore, is not just a passive response to difficulties, but an active skill that we must develop and refine throughout our lives. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, also spoke about the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. As emperor, he faced wars, betrayals, and numerous challenges, but he always maintained a Stoic perspective. For him, difficulties were inevitable, but his response to them was entirely up to him. Instead of giving up or complaining, he focused on what he could control, his attitude and his decisions. In this sense, Stoic resilience is not just an act of resistance, but a wise response that allows us to maintain calm and rationality, even in the toughest circumstances. Resilience does not mean ignoring suffering or avoiding pain. It is about how we face it. Accepting that suffering is a natural part of life allows us to prepare our minds and hearts to confront it with dignity and strength. The Stoics believe that suffering is an opportunity to develop virtues such as patience, perseverance, and wisdom. In fact, resilience is fueled by the idea that our difficulties do not define us, but shape us. In every challenge, we have the opportunity to grow and strengthen, to learn something new about ourselves and about life. Practically speaking, Stoic resilience involves three key elements: acceptance, control, and perspective. First, we must accept that adversity is an inevitable part of life. Second, we must focus on what is within our control, which is our response to the difficulty. Finally, we must maintain a broad perspective, understanding that difficulties are temporary and that in the end, what truly matters is how we choose to react to them. By practicing these principles, we can develop resilience that not only helps us survive, but also thrive in the face of adversity. The lesson is clear. Stoic resilience teaches us that, although we cannot control difficulties, we can control our attitude towards them. If we cultivate this skill, we will be able to face any challenge with serenity, strength, and wisdom. 14. The importance of self-discipline. Self-discipline is one of the most valued virtues in Stoic philosophy. For Stoics, true freedom is not found in doing whatever we want at any moment, but in having control over our desires, impulses, and actions. Self-discipline is the ability to act according to our principles and values, even when our emotions or desires push us to do the opposite. It is the inner strength that allows us to stay focused on our goals, resist the temptation of the immediate, and work with perseverance towards a better future. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that true freedom arises when we are capable of governing our own mind. Self-discipline is not an act of repression, but of liberation. It frees us from external distractions and internal impulses that divert us from what truly matters. If we want to be the masters of our lives, we must learn to dominate our desires and reactions so that they do not govern us. This does not mean eliminating pleasure or satisfaction, but knowing when it is the right moment to act according to what is truly important and valuable in the long run. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reflected on the importance of being disciplined in our daily life. For him, self-discipline was key to being a virtuous person. Without discipline, our lives stray from reason and principles, and we are carried away by emotions or instant gratification. However, with self-discipline, we are able to do the right thing, even when it is not easy or comfortable. This quality allows us to act coherently, aligning our decisions and actions with our deepest values. Practicing self-discipline does not mean living a life of deprivation, but making conscious and thoughtful decisions. It means knowing when to say no, staying focused on our goals, and being consistent in our efforts. Self-discipline helps us overcome procrastination, remain productive, and avoid momentary pleasures that divert us from our long-term objectives. Furthermore, it enables us to maintain emotional balance, as when we are disciplined, we are less likely to react impulsively to adversity or provocations. One way Stoics practice self-discipline is through daily reflection. At the end of the day, Marcus Aurelius would ask himself whether he had acted with integrity, if his thoughts and actions were aligned with reason, and whether he had been true to his principles. This self-assessment practice allows us to identify areas where we can improve and continually work to strengthen our personal discipline. Self-discipline also helps us develop a growth mindset. When we are disciplined, we do not see challenges as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and improve. This attitude allows us to persevere even in difficult times, knowing that consistent effort will lead to continuous improvement and success. The lesson is clear. Self-discipline is the key to achieving our most ambitious goals and living a life aligned with our principles. Through the constant practice of self-discipline, we can gain control over our emotions and desires and make decisions that bring us closer to the life we truly want to live. If you find this lesson useful, I can continue with the next one. 15. The importance of daily reflection. The Stoics were strong advocates of the practice of daily reflection. For them, at the end of each day, it was crucial to take stock of their thoughts, actions, and emotions in order to learn from the day's experiences and continually improve. Daily reflection is a powerful tool that allows us to review our decisions, acknowledge our mistakes, and recognize our victories, no matter how small. This practice helps us live with greater awareness and purpose, align with our values, and continue developing our character. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, is one of the greatest examples of the importance of daily reflection. In his meditations, he wrote profound thoughts in which he reflected on his own behavior, emotions, and interactions with others. He not only questioned his actions, but also how he could improve as a human being, as a leader, and as an individual. Every day, he would take a moment to review his thoughts and ensure that his decisions were aligned with virtue and reason. Daily reflection invites us to look inward. It helps us distance ourselves from our immediate emotions and external circumstances to pause and observe our reactions. Why did we act that way? Why were we carried away by certain impulses or desires? How can we improve tomorrow? This practice is fundamental to cultivating self-awareness and making wiser decisions based on reason rather than passing emotions. To carry out effective reflection, it is helpful to reserve a few minutes at the end of the day to review our actions and emotions honestly. Writing in a journal can be an excellent tool for this process. Writing allows us to externalize our thoughts and process them more clearly. By reflecting on what we did well, we can reinforce those behaviors. And by identifying areas where we failed, we can formulate an action plan to improve. Reflection also allows us to recognize our blessings and cultivate a sense of gratitude for what we have learned, even from difficult experiences. Furthermore, daily reflection not only helps us learn from mistakes, but also strengthens our resilience. It reminds us that every day is an opportunity to start over, to be better, to correct our course, and to practice virtue. Every day is a new page in our life, and daily reflection gives us the chance to write it with greater awareness and wisdom. The Stoics teach us that we should not live reactively but consciously. By taking the time to reflect, we take control of our life. We are no longer at the mercy of the fluctuations of our emotions or external circumstances, but we are capable of acting with purpose, continuously learning, and living aligned with our best version. The lesson is clear. Daily reflection is a powerful tool for self-knowledge and continuous improvement. Through it, we can learn from our mistakes, reinforce our virtues, and ensure that we are living according to our values. By making reflection a constant practice, we can continue to grow each day, developing our wisdom and making decisions more aligned with who we truly want to be. This concludes the series of Stoic lessons to foster daily action. If you need more help or adjustments, don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to help. I hope these 15 Stoic lessons have given you new perspectives and tools to take action each day with purpose and discipline. As we have seen, Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy, but a practical guide to living with greater serenity, resilience, and focus on what really matters. Each of these lessons is designed to help you strengthen your character, reduce unnecessary suffering, and achieve a fuller and more balanced life. Remember that real change does not happen overnight. It is an ongoing process of small daily actions. The key is to be consistent, reflect on your actions, and stay committed to your personal growth. If you put these Stoic principles into practice, you will realize that, while you can't control everything that happens around you, you always have the power to choose how to respond. And that is true freedom. Now, I invite you to take the next step. Reflect on these lessons, and choose one that you can apply immediately in your life. Perhaps you will focus on self-discipline, resilience in the face of adversity, or the practice of detachment. Whatever lesson you choose, start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. If this video has helped you, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Every week I share more content so you can continue to dive deeper into Stoicism and other practical philosophies that will transform your life. Also, if you think this information could help someone else, feel free to share this video with them. And of course, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. What Stoic lesson impacted you the most? How do you plan to implement it in your life? Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one to continue learning and growing together. See you soon.